Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It is another Wednesday, and we are so excited to be back on Industry Chats this week, the weekly show by Affixify, where we have educational conversations with various guests from our industry, both vendors, hoteliers, and consultants alike. And today, I am extremely honored to have one of our Affixify partners and friends, Rubi Perez from RoomPriceGenie. So, Ruby, welcome to Industry Chats.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. I've followed you and I've watched some of your chats, and
Oh,
they're so interesting. I never thought I was going to be here on sitting on the other side of always as a listener. So thank you so much for inviting me. I'm super excited being part of this. Thank you.
well, thank you. That's an honor. I have to say that's a huge honor. When we launched this about a year and a half ago, I honestly thought like no one's going to watch this, but we're going to do it anyway. And then it's grown, and it's such a joy to hear that, you've had a chance to catch a couple of episodes, but I am like extremely excited to have you on. My interactions with the Room Price Genie team have been phenomenal. I mean, I think Pia and I were the first to meet, and then every one of you guys from the team that I talk to it's like it's better and better. So having you on today is so great, Ruby. And would you do just a quick intro on Room Price Genie and a little bit about you before we dive into today's topic?
Sure. I'll start with me. So I've been in the hospitality industry for many years in the various business segments. So I've done your distribution. I've been in OTA. I've been a hotelier.
Yeah,
So I've played and seen this industry grow,
you have.
and hence the excitement. When we have these kind of conversations with peers. I love it. Now, regarding Room Price Genie, I joined
Mhm.
about 4 months ago. And what attracted me about Room Price Genie was the company culture and
Yeah.
the product, you know,
Mm,
amazing. And we call each other, we've referenced each other as genies.
I
So
love that.
I got the opportunity to meet the whole team and our founders last month, and I hate to brag, but it was Lisbon. So we got together
Oh my goodness.
about our strategy for the year. So it was really nice to connect and with everyone.
Yeah,
So you felt more, family. So a little bit
I
about
love that.
Genie. Rinpoche Genie was founded in 2017
Okay.
to help the independent hotels set the right room price in seconds
Yeah.
using smart automated pricing. So we basically analyze the data, the hotel's data, and
Hmm.
also the real-time market demand
Okay.
to optimize the rates, increase revenue, and really reduce or save hours of manual work.
Mm.
So we have over 4,000 hotels worldwide
Amazing.
that trust us and love us. And we integrate with over 80 leading partners.
Okay.
So we
Okay.
operate on three core principles: simplicity, transparency, and efficiency. And that's what as hoteliers, that's what we're trying to do, right? Be more
Right.
efficient with,
Yeah.
the the more hats that we wear as hoteliers, now because we're leaner, so we
Yeah.
have to, have this. But I'm also very proud to say that last month we were nominated, not nominated, actually, it was more of recognized by Hotel Tech Report as the number one revenue management system.
That's
We
phenomenal.
are still celebrating, Jasmine. We're still celebrating this win. It was big
Yeah.
for us, and we
I
actually
love
got
it.
the news while we were in Lisbon. And
Oh, we're
you should have
together.
seen that room. Everybody was jumping,
Oh,
screaming, hugging. It
wow.
was it was very exciting.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's phenomenal. And honestly, what I think is so interesting is like for being just founded 9 years ago, and that's not that long to be at this point with 4,000 clients. I'm thinking you really are genies. Like we need to know, we need to know the secret. This is amazing.
Well,
That's
it's
phenomenal.
As I mentioned, the customers trust us. We had in the partnerships that we developed, in
Right.
every region, and we're newer in the U.S. The North America market. We're newer. We've been here. We
Yeah.
set our footprint a few years ago, but we're now definitely putting more dedication
Mm,
into our branding, in marketing events, and just events in the U.S. to attend. So
okay.
we're having more of a presence.
Yeah.
We're just excited to be part of seeing that growth and be part of
It's
Affixify. So
amazing.
thank you.
We are honored. I'm honored. I need to talk all about this award. I guess I am behind on all of the different awards. So now I'm finding out. I'm like, this is amazing. I'm so excited. And I'm I'm really curious as we kind of lead into our topic today, which is going to educate me quite a bit because I have never been on the revenue management side, right? Even tech sales, I have not. Have you guys stayed in that independent space or have you found that you've grown even beyond that? I'm curious on those 4,000 customers where
No,
you stand.
we have stayed. Our product definitely is focused for the independent hotels.
Okay.
Doesn't
I
mean
love
that
that.
in the future we're not going to move into the chain world. I have a lot of background in the chain side, so
Yeah.
which I would love. I'm like, I can't wait. Are we at that level? No, Ruby, we're still our bread and butter are the independents
Yeah.
properties, but
Yeah.
hotels and groups. So we
Yeah.
work also with groups and
Okay.
groups. So
I love that. That's
yeah.
and I find because when you were explaining kind of when you guys were launched and why, I think this is such a fascinating topic, but a lot of those independents don't have the budget to bring on a full-time team to do these things. And so that was my very first thought when you said that is like, well, that makes so much sense because you're servicing a market that wants to compete and inevitably they are competing with the chain hotel next door, but they don't necessarily always have the tools and team to do that. So that's where you guys come in, of course.
Yes.
And I love it. I think it's phenomenal. I have a heart for independence just because my career, before and another time was spent helping independents with their email marketing and that strategy. So I think it's very smart. I want to dive in today. And for those listening, also, we do have a Q&A option. So if you want to leave a comment, we'll try our best to answer your questions towards the end. We will get to the topic of like things like the World Cup. I told my husband the topic for today, and he's like, "Well, I want to hear the World Cup part." I'm like, "Okay, well, it's more than that." But um, so, talk to me a little bit about this concept of diversifying demand. So, I've had various guests on the show, and I hear this a lot, right? Like, we can't just rely on one segment of business. And so, I'm really curious and I'm excited to learn from you. Tell me that the hotels that are really winning, right, using your platform and using smart revenue management tactics, what are they doing as far as the diversification of all of these segments? Does that make sense? Like, do you have any insight into that? Where are they leaning? What can those listening do to do better in that area?
So before I get to that, I'm going to tell you why we're talking about these diversifying your demand mix, just to kind of give you a little bit of a landscape of the global hotel market.
Right.
So I'll start with that to kind of
Yeah.
start us off, so the hotels can understand the impact of some
Mhm.
of these global events like the World Cup, etc. So, do you have, Jasmine, an idea of how big our global market is? Hotel market?
I do not have an idea, actually. I have heard various things, but I have to be honest with you, I always question those numbers. So tell me what your research shows. Yeah.
Well, I attended HEDNA
Yeah.
last month.
Yes.
And then during the HEDNA, it's all the hospitality leaders are there, the brands, the independents, anybody, all technology is there.
Mm,
And the topics that are discussed are amazing. But one of my favorites is that I always enjoy, and I'm waiting. I sit at the front because I'm waiting to hear what the stats, how we're doing, our travel industry. It's very exciting and
yeah.
big,
Yeah.
and but not everybody understands the growth. So
Mm,
global hotel market, just to kind of give you an idea, is in 25 was over $2 trillion.
Oh my gosh.
$2
That's like,
trillion.
we can't wrap our mind around that many zeros.
But I've been on the industry enough that I'm like, okay, how big are we now? How big are we now?
Yeah, right.
We grow approximately 5 to 6% annually.
Wow. I'm writing this down.
So that is big. But
Yeah.
the part that's even more interesting to me, which what we're talking, why the topic today is, what is the piece of the pie for North America?
Yeah. Yeah.
40%. That is huge. That's a lot of billions.
That's a lot of
That
zeros.
is a lot of billion. I mean, 40% is
Wow.
big. And it's growing, and it's growing globally.
Mm,
Obviously, some regions uptake more than
yeah.
others. They're growing. But so one other stat that really opened my eyes was, how is the U.S. doing? How
Yeah.
is the RevPAR doing?
Right.
What are we seeing? So in 2025, we had a RevPAR decline, which was the first since 2020, since the pandemic. So
Yeah.
with the pandemic, obviously, we started growing, and unfortunately, 2025 was not the case, though it wasn't like a crazy decline. It was like
Yeah.
about 2 to 3 points from forecast. It wasn't
Mm.
huge, but still, we saw it.
It's a decline, right?
Yes, the occupancy, we kind of hovered over 62, 63%. Our ADR, though, did grow a little. It's about zero point 0.9,
Okay.
just a little bit. I think a lot of it had to do with our luxury brands. So that
Yeah.
helped
Yeah.
our ADR
That's good.
quite a bit. But the biggest impact
Mm.
for our decline was our international,
Wow.
business travelers.
Yeah.
Those we really got impacted in key markets, and I'll just name a few: New York,
Oh, yeah.
Las Vegas, LA, San Francisco,
Mhm.
Seattle, Portland,
Really?
Detroit.
Wow.
Seattle, because dependent on a lot of Canadian business. So
Mm.
a lot of the major international drops were more from Western Europe and Canada.
Okay.
Be surprised of Canadian travel, the
Yeah.
visitors that we get. So it
Yeah.
impacted a lot of these markets or border
Oh,
locations,
yeah.
regions,
Yeah.
that we have. So was that caused some of that dip.
Sure.
The excitement, that there is optimism, and with that number on for 2026, mind you, is going to be slow.
Yeah.
Going to be slow. It's not going to be quick. But what's going to help us in the U.S. is events like the World Cup.
Yes.
No,
Absolutely.
so right now, the Olympics in Italy. So what happens when you travel abroad or anywhere? You extend your stay.
Always.
This is why it's important to have your rate strategy, revenue strategy, demand
Right.
mix set to take advantage of these
Right.
events. Know what's happening in your market. As I travel, in events, I have a tendency also extending my stay.
Oh, yeah.
That's additional revenue for that market. I had when I worked for an Australian company, I'm not going to name them, but I worked for an Australian company, and we had our peers coming to visit
Right.
Dallas. And the first thing they said, Ruby, can you please take us shopping? And they were doing high-end shopping. So it
Oh,
was
yeah.
for our market.
Yeah. It's great.
And
Hmm.
then when the nonstop direct flights came about a few years back
Yes.
from Sydney. It was like, so these are the type of data that we need to keep in mind when we're doing our market strategy. What's coming
Absolutely.
into our market where we can take advantage, and then, grow and keep up with that demand and have the right pricing. As you mentioned earlier, we were talking about how the bigger, brands have some of these tools to help them.
Yeah.
They
Right.
have data coming, and I said this because I used to get this data, but I use that data to then
Yeah.
put my strategy in place for that year or for the upcoming months. Because your strategy changes all the
Absolutely.
time. And it should,
It
because you
should.
adapt
Right.
to the market demand.
Yeah.
But uh, one one thing that we forget at times is to really know what's happening in our market. So it's important to keep up with
Yeah.
it. But like the independent properties that do not have,
Mm.
tools to provide them with this, they really sometimes depend on some of their systems that they use, their PMS
Right.
or their RMS if they're using it,
Yeah.
given this type of intelligence to price themselves as they should, and keep up with that demand in that market
Yeah.
and gain some revenue.
Yeah.
Uh, Hence our topic. So I wanted to kind of give you
I love
some
it.
of that landscape as to why we're having that conversation or talking about, the U.S. market
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
revenue and what can we do
Right.
to identify some of those gaps where we have those
Mhm.
gaps.
Mhm.
Um, for speaking for the independent on the independent hotel side, that as you mentioned, they don't have a lot of resources,
Yeah.
and a lot of them do not diversify their mix.
Right.
I mean, their channel mix. They're dependent at times. Oh, one of my OTAs there, and I've had conversations with many hotels
Mm.
that put their eggs in that one basket.
Yep.
But what I explain to them is that there is a cost involved. Yes, you are getting bookings, but then there's a higher cost. So now customers are getting smarter when they're booking, hotels, when they're searching, they're
Yeah.
looking at multiple places.
Yeah.
And when you want to drive and you're looking, you're analyzing where my mix is, my channel mix, and you look at where brand.com, basically your
Mhm.
website, why is brand.com low? Why is it
Yeah.
not performing as,
Yeah.
as your other channels? So that's very important to look at your channel mix and identify those channels that are producing,
Right.
and maybe then adjust those changes and have a focus on those channels that are not. Like
Right.
an example, corporate business. If you're independent hotel, and then you have businesses, and there's around, there's always some type of a business regardless of the
Yeah.
segment. But
Right.
it is those type of relationships that you need to build and take into consideration when you are doing your strategy planning on
Mm.
where you can grow in that mix. How did I do? How was my corporate business? I don't know how many sessions, meetings I had with the sales teams to say,
Mhm.
okay, I'm down here on this, let's say my corporate business. What companies are we working with and what can we do? How are they doing?
Yeah.
So we were looking at that type of data to identify, hey, we need to have a meeting with, let's say the Cheerios company as an example. There we have a negotiated rate, but
Yep.
we haven't had a lot of bookings. What's happening?
Mhm.
Those are the type of conversations or analytics that need to happen to improve that channel demand. But as you mentioned earlier, the smaller properties at times do not have this data. They wear many hats,
Yeah.
and their time is precious. And a lot of them depend on tools like ours.
Mm.
Since
Right.
we do have that data intelligence to guide them into
Mhm.
letting the system do their dynamic pricing, set their pricing based on their occupancy,
Right.
on their forecast, on
Mhm.
the goals that they want to reach. All of that is taken into consideration uh,
Yeah.
for them to market themselves, and then let the system do its thing. Set it and
Yeah.
forget it.
I
So
love that.
at the same time, you really need to look at that data. Your PMSs provide a lot of this information as well.
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
Where is my business coming from? Am I really focusing on one segment?
Yeah.
And as much as hotels want to drive more business to the website, there's always going to be that big competition with the OTAs. So
Yes.
the OTAs, they have muscle. They have
They
muscle.
do.
They
Yeah.
do. But we have to also identify when we're busy.
Yeah.
We have to minimize those discounts
Right.
for those channels because we want to make profit.
Mm. Yeah.
And yes, they're bringing in business, but there's a cost involved. So, so those are the kind of things that we should be thinking of when we're looking at our channel mix. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Look at our shoulder days,
Mhm.
our shoulder periods, depending,
Right.
and where can we then maximize,
Yep.
our pricing, our visibility for those periods. So we got
Mm.
to look at that and put that in place when you're looking at your data.
And so what I hear you saying, and the reason I'm nodding so much is because this is why we do this show is we're educating, right? You're educating a lot of what you just shared. I'm like, this is phenomenal information.
Mhm.
And then what I'm thinking and hearing is you're essentially helping us understand that this is a strategy. So this is not just, you
Mhm.
know, let's just come up with a plan and it never changes. Like you even said, you used to plan, but then your plan would change and
Mhm.
change again. And so what I'm understanding you to say is that this is a strategy and the right tech, like what RoomPriceGenie does, is going to help with that strategy,
Mhm.
not make it so manual, but keep you competitive. And then the other thing I'm hearing you say is like, this is not a one size fits all. So you have to really look at your individual segments. You have to, maybe we don't always try to beat the OTAs. We join them sometimes, but we also have other strategic moves that aren't going to put all those eggs in one basket, right? Is that kind of where you're guiding
Definitely.
your clients?
We just to kind of give you, we have reviews with customers all the time, and
Yeah.
to help them with that strategy, where they should be, where
Yes.
their pricing should be. Are they at the right price? How are their occupancy levels, etc. And there was one customer that said, you know, my pricing is my revenue is not matching what I have added,
Oh,
what's
wow.
in my
Hmm.
system, my PMS. And we're reviewing, just to kind of give you an idea. Uh, is this the price that you have? And yeah, that's it. But it's not matching what I'm getting. I said, well, this is the price that we have set. It turns out, and we forget, we sometimes set, discounts
Yeah.
um, in our third parties. We forget about it, that they're there. This property had multiple, multiple um, discounts in place. And,
They forgot.
and forgot. So what was happening, that customer was getting those stacked discounts.
Oh, no.
So it wasn't just getting one,
They
it
were
was,
like,
yes, hence the big difference
yeah.
between what was in the system and what was revenue that was coming in. So it
Mm.
is very
Yeah.
important to review,
Yes.
that channel mix, what's coming, what is the percentage,
Mm.
have a better strategy on, when it's busy,
Right.
not close them,
Right.
but reduce or make sure that they are at the same price as brand.com, which
Oh, yeah.
always should be the case. Re-engaging with those, as I mentioned earlier, with the corporate groups. and really stimulate those shoulder
Mhm.
demand periods that
Right.
at times we don't think of because we're so busy, that I'm like, I've had one hotelier, we were talking about dynamic pricing. It says, Ruby, my price is set. I've been having the same price for years. I get bookings. And my heart was, you know, uh, you had the same. Yes, I don't need to strategize. My price is set. I don't touch it. I just leave it.
Yes.
He's not in what happens is we're not looking at what's happening in the market,
Yeah.
what opportunities he has to increase those prices when,
Mhm.
let's say, when there's a big concert, in place. I'm not going to mention any names, but we know who. She's
We
very
know who. We
but
know it's an effect. Yeah.
exactly. But it happens that
Yeah, it does.
those surge in demands,
Yeah.
and if you're not really looking at the tool, you don't have the bandwidth,
Yeah.
you're missing out on revenue. So it's very important too.
And I would imagine the guests will pay. I mean, they're going to pay the competitive rate. Like I know if I'm going into town for an event, I'm planning to pay a specific rate. It makes me think of a story, and this is a little bit lesser, but still a similar example. So I was helping book for some family members to go see the aurora in Alaska last
Mhm.
year. And I found them through all of my research because I was everyone, you work in hospitality. So people usually say, well, can you help us? And I found this very highly recommended, not really, but it was more than a bed and breakfast. It's kind of an inn that's well known. They wake you up when the northern lights are showing. It's this whole thing. And they were on all of these sites mentioned. So I went to book the room for this family member and they just had their rates on their website. So it was like, if you're staying one night, it's this much a night. And I thought, what a loss, because that rate is just static on the site. So that means they're never changing based on what's going on. And I know they have great traction because they're mentioned in all of these media sites. And so I think of that just like guests are, I mean, this family member would have paid more, I guarantee you, because this was their bucket list trip.
Correct.
But the rates were the rates on the site. Great deal for them. But to your point, I think having a technology, that's why we have technology to really enhance and be able to help that and make it less manual. You're only going to make more money. So, I mean, what's
Only going to
the
make more.
loss? You know?
As you mentioned, we're talking about education, and it's ongoing education,
Yeah.
especially for these smaller properties, with independent properties that are not backed by
Yeah.
big brands. And so yes, and
Yeah.
I love to have those conversations. You'll be surprised how many I've had with franchisees on this industry. But
Oh, yeah, I bet. Well, one of the things I wanted to be sure we touched on before, these chats go so quickly. It just
yes,
always
yes.
amazes me. But I'm so impressed by the knowledge you're bringing to the table. And I wanted to get your take on preparing for events are going to have
Mhm.
great demand. So we mentioned the World Cup. We got to touch on that, right? We mentioned the certain celebrity effect when this one celebrity's in town. I mean, how can our independents really start properly preparing for that? Because I know that the tech behind them is going to help them, but are there things that they might be missing or partnerships they should be leaning into to really capitalize on this? I mean, we have as an example, even for the World Cup out here, we're like a good hour and 10 minutes away from where it will be. And we've already had people saying, oh, you should put your house on Airbnb, which I'm not going to do, by the way. I will not do that. But, people are already thinking about this. So what would you recommend in preparation and in partnership that our hoteliers can do to be really ready for these types of things?
Definitely, there's a lot of like the your local CBB.
Okay.
You will be surprised how much information they have websites that could tell you. They have a list of the local events. It's very important. There's tools that can tell you what events are happening during that price, and there's also tools that help you. Um, give you more information on that as well, on the event itself.
Mm,
But like our system does, we
yeah.
implemented that market information to help with address some of these demands. But definitely the and I'll mention for the Dallas,
Yeah.
the associations are very important. We meet, we talk what's going on in the industry. Like here in Dallas, we have HSMI. So it all depends on the market where you are.
Okay.
Your local CVB is one that I really strongly suggest, because if there's any major event, and now because of the decline in international, we're really more focused more on, domestic.
Yeah.
Really got to focus on that domestic business that's coming, events, what events are, like, as an example, high tech.
Yeah.
It's going to be in San Antonio. So San Antonio is preparing. So it's
Yes.
going to be a good revenue. But if you're not attending high tech, if you're a smaller hotel and you're not attending high tech, you might not know that high tech is going to be in your town.
Yeah.
So this is where it's very important to have those relationships with, like the CBB, the local associations, the airlines, the groups, the meetings, anywhere where you can have that foot
Yeah.
in to help you and guide you, and obviously maybe adopt a
I
tool
love it.
that
Yeah,
can help you guide you with those decisions. Because
absolutely.
especially for this year, as I mentioned earlier, it's going to be a slow uptake. And
Yep.
what's really going to help is those 11, destinations in the US.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
Texas has two.
Yeah.
So just to give you an idea of the possible revenue that could come. So it's 2 weeks. If I remember looking at the schedule in June, two
Right.
weeks, we're going to have the World Cup here. And I think maybe
It's
one in
crazy.
July.
Yeah.
So think of not only the hotel revenue per se,
Mhm.
but also the goods, the impact on people
Mhm.
extending their stay and also exploring the city,
Oh, yeah. Restaurants, all of it. Right.
shopping. So
Yeah.
it's really great for these markets to really
So good.
know what's coming, to them.
Fabulous. I love it. I love it so much. Now I'm just very inspired by all of the awesome information you brought to the table. I think sometimes I say on the show we need a part two because I feel like we have so much we want to cover. So we need to do a part two. Maybe we do it, post high tech and we talk a little bit more. But really and truly, I think these are the conversations that the industry needs because it helps all of us to have a better understanding of what's going on, how to compete with the brand.coms of the world. And obviously, for anyone listening now or on our YouTube, you can reach out through Affixify and get in touch with RoomPriceGenie. But Ruby, how can our followers follow you? Because you have so much to bring to the table, so much experience. Is LinkedIn the best place to find you, or where can they find you?
Yes, I am on LinkedIn. So please feel free to reach out. Or you can also email me. I'm at Rubi, RUBI, at RoomPriceGenie.com, and happy to, if you want to talk more about a specific area, a channel, because like I said, I've been a hotelier, I've been an OTA, I know about a lot of distribution channels. So happy to help you, happy to have this conversation.
I love it. Okay, we need another education session just on that, honestly. But well, Ruby, it was my honor to have you on the show today. And for our listeners, I will be back next week for actually a very special episode. So Stephanie, who is my co-founder and our COO, she's going to join. And we're actually going to share a little bit more of the journey of Affixify. So we're going to take a little bit of a turn on next week's episode, and we're excited. For those that want to share Ruby's episode or watch it again, this will be on YouTube by the end of the week. Ruby, thank you so much. And we can't wait to have you back on the show. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.